The moment at Sunday family dinner when Dad slides an envelope across the table to my sister Sarah instead of me. His words echo in the dining room. "We gave your wedding fund to your sister. She deserves a royal wedding." Mom nods in agreement while Sarah beams triumphantly. I sit frozen. My fiancé Marcus beside me as 23 years of being the overlooked daughter crashes down on me. The $10,000 been counting on for 6 months gone. Sarah's smug smile tells me this was planned. I don't cry. I just look at Marcus. The silence stretches across our childhood dining room table. The same oak surface where it done homework while Sarah got help with her college applications. Dad clears his throat and leans back in his chair, the leather creaking under his weight. HEZ wearing that expression I know so well. The one that says HEZ about to deliver a lecture disguised as wisdom. "Shelby, you have to understand our position here." He begins, his voice taking on that condescending tone I've heard my entire life. Sarah graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern University. She's worked incredibly hard to build her career. Sarah straightens in her chair, practically glowing under Dad's praise. She's wearing a cream-colored blazer that probably costs more than I make in 2 weeks. Her hair perfectly styled in that effortless way that actually takes an hour to achieve. Everything about her screams success. From her manicured nails to her designer watch, she's a marketing executive at Henderson Global. Mom chimes in, setting down her coffee cup with unnecessary force. "A Fortune 500 company, Shelby. Do you realize what an accomplishment that is?" I do realize. I've heard about Sarah's achievements approximately 15,000 times since she started working there 3 years ago. Every family gathering becomes a recitation of her latest promotion. Her impressive salary increases. Her corner office with the city view in Bradley. Dad continues gesturing towards Sarah's fiancé who sits smugly beside her. Comes from the Morrison family. We've known them for years. Solid people. Has a certified public accountant with his own practice. Bradley Morrison III to be exact. 3rd generation of Morrison men to work in accounting, as he never fails to mention. Hess wearing a navy suit even for Sunday dinner. His receding hairline making him look older than his 28 years. The kind of man who probably irons his underwear and keeps spreadsheets for his personal expenses. "Now let's look at your situation," Dad says, and I feel my stomach clench. Here it comes. The comparison I've been dreading but knew was inevitable. "You went to Riverside Community College," he states, as if the words themselves are disappointing. Nothing wrong with that, mind you, but it's not the same level of achievement. You're working as a freelance graphic designer, living in that little apartment downtown. That little apartment happens to be a charming 1-bedroom loft that I've decorated myself and absolutely love. But pointing that out won't help my case. I can feel Marcus' hand find mine under the table, his fingers intertwining with mine in a gesture of support that almost breaks my composure. "Marcus seems like a nice enough young man," Mom says, glancing at my fiancé with polite but distant appreciation. "But we don't really know what he does for work. Has always so vague when we ask about his job." I turn to look at Marcus, realizing for the first time that my family might have a point. In the 2 years we've been together, he's always said he works in technology when people ask. You've never pressed him for details because he seemed uncomfortable discussing work, and I respected his privacy. Now I'm wondering if there's more to his reluctance than simple modesty. "The truth is, sweetheart," Dad continues, his voice softening in that way that makes his words hurt even more. "We've watched you struggle financially. You've asked for help with rent more than once this year. We don't want to throw good money after bad." The phrase hits me like a physical blow. Throw good money after bad. As if my entire life, my relationship, my happiness is nothing more than a poor investment strategy. Sarah leans forward, her engagement ring catching the light from the chandelier above. It's a 2-carat princess cut that Bradley presented to her at the country club in front of half the town. The proposal made the society pages of our local newspaper. "I've always been responsible with money," she says, her voice carrying that particular blend of superiority and false concern that she's perfected over the years. "I have a savings account, a retirement plan, a solid credit score. I've never had to ask Mom and Dad for help with basic living expenses. The implication hangs in the air like smoke. I'm the irresponsible one. The daughter who can't manage her finances. Who chose a creative career over stability. Who fell in love with a man whose job description consists of 2 vague words. Sarah's wedding is going to be an investment in her future. Mom explains, reaching over to squeeze my sister's hand. She and Bradley are building something substantial together. A foundation for a successful marriage. What about my foundation? I ask quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. Dad sigh heavily, the sound filled with decades of disappointment. Honey, your foundation is shaky at best. You're barely making ends meet. We want to help you succeed, but enabling financial irresponsibility isn't helping anyone. I think about all the times they've helped Sarah over the years. The brand new Honda Civic for her 16th birthday, while I got Dad's 10-year-old pickup truck. The full college tuition payment while I took out student loans for community college. The $5,000 down payment for her downtown condo, while I've been renting ever since. Sarah's venue alone costs $8,000. Mom continues. We want her day to be perfect. She's worked so hard for everything she has. Marcus continues sitting silently beside me, his presence steady and calm despite the verbal assault happening around us. Itchy wearing jeans and a simple gray sweater, his dark hair slightly tousled from the wind outside. Nothing about his appearance suggests wealth or status, and I realize my family has made assumptions based on his casual demeanor. Besides, Sarah adds with barely concealed glee, I've already put deposits down on everything. The Riverside Country Club, the photographer, the caterer. Everything's been arranged based on having that money available. The country club where she works out, where Bradley plays golf every Saturday, where they'll host a reception that will undoubtedly be featured in the same society pages that announce their engagement. A wedding designed to impress their social circle, rather than celebrate their love. We're not trying to hurt your feelings, Dad says, though his words accomplish exactly the opposite. We're trying to be practical, realistic about what makes sense for our family's financial future. Financial future. Not my happiness, not my love, not my dreams, just dollars and cents and the appearance of success that Sarah has always provided, and I apparently never will. I look around the dining room where I've eaten thousands of meals, where I celebrated every birthday until I moved out, where I announced my engagement 6 months ago to lukewarm congratulations. The walls are covered with family photos and I notice for the first time how many features Sarah front and center while I hover in the background. Marcus squeezes my hand gently and I realize he's been absorbing every word, every insult, every casual dismissal of our relationship and my worth as a daughter. His expression remains neutral, but I can sense something building beneath the surface. So that's it. I finally ask. 23 years of being your daughter, and this is how little my happiness means to you. Don't be dramatic, Mom says with an exasperated sigh. This isn't about love or happiness. It's about being sensible with our money. Sensible, another word that feels like a slap. Nothing about me has ever been sensible enough for them. Not my career choice, not my living situation, not my fiancé, not my dreams. The envelope containing my wedding fund sits in front of Sarah like a trophy, and I can see her fingers drumming against the table and barely contained excitement. She's won again, just like she always does. Marcus finally stands up slowly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor with deliberate precision. The sound cuts through the tension like a blade, and suddenly everyone's attention shifts to him. He reaches into his back pocket and pulls out his phone, his movements calm and measured. Should I tell them what I do for a living? He asks, but he's looking directly at me, not at my family. The question hangs in the air, and I realize with a jolt of surprise that I don't actually know the answer. In 2 years of dating, I've never pressed him for specifics about his work. He always said he worked in technology, and when I asked follow-up questions, he'd change the subject, or give vague answers about software development and business solutions. What do you mean? I ask, my voice uncertain. Marcus turns his phone screen toward the table, and I see a professional website with clean lines and modern design. At the top, in bold letters, it reads Cloud Vault Solutions, and prominently displayed is a photograph of Marcus in a navy business suit, looking nothing like the casually dressed man standing beside me. Founder and Chief Executive Officer, he says simply, his voice carrying a confidence I've never heard before. I built a data security company from scratch. The words hit the dining room like a bomb. Sarah's face goes completely white, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Dad's coffee cup freezes halfway to his lips. And Mom actually drops her fork with a clatter that seems unnaturally loud in the sudden silence. I started CloudVault in my garage 5 years ago. Marcus continues, his voice steady and matter-of-fact. We provide cybersecurity solutions for major corporations, protecting their sensitive data from hackers and security breaches. He scrolls through his phone showing us page after page of information, employee profiles, company achievements, news articles featuring his business. I see photos of Marcus shaking hands with executives in boardrooms, speaking at technology conferences, accepting awards for innovation in cybersecurity. We currently employ 237 people across 4 office locations, he says, his tone remaining conversational despite the magnitude of what he's revealing. Dallas, Atlanta, Denver, and our headquarters here in Austin. Bradley's face has gone from smug superiority to slack-jawed disbelief. His accounting practice suddenly seems very small in comparison to a multi-off technology corporation. Last month we went public. Marcus continues, swiping to show a Forbes article with his photograph prominently featured. The company is currently valued at $47 million. I feel like the floor has dropped out from under me. $47 million. The man I've been sharing a bed with for 2 years. The man who drives a 7-year-old Honda Accord and shops at Target owns a company worth $47 million. Why didn't you ever tell me? I whisper, my voice barely audible. Marcus turns to me, his expression softening for the first time since this conversation began. Because I wanted to make absolutely sure you loved me for who I am, not for what I have. I've seen too many relationships destroyed by money and expectations. Dad starts making stuttering sounds, trying to form words that won't come. His earlier comments about Marcus being vague about his job now sound incredibly foolish, and I can see the realization dawning on his face. But you drive a Honda, Sarah says weakly, as if this fact somehow negates everything Marcus has just revealed. I drive a Honda because it's reliable and efficient. Marcus replies with a slight smile. I dress casually because I'm comfortable. I don't need expensive clothes or flashy cars to validate my success. He pulls up another screen on his phone showing a news article from the Austin Business Journal. The headline reads, Local Tech CEO named Entrepreneur of the Year. And there's Marcus again, this time holding a Crystal Award and standing next to the mayor. You've probably seen our commercials, he says to my parents. CloudVault, protecting your digital future. We sponsor the Austin FC soccer team. Mom's face crumples as she recognizes the company name. Their commercials run constantly during the evening news, featuring sleek graphics and testimonials from satisfied corporate clients. The business they've been watching advertised for months belongs to my boyfriend. I've been keeping a low profile because I wanted our relationship to develop naturally. Marcus explains, his attention focused entirely on me. Too many people change when they find out about money. They start seeing dollar signs instead of the person. Bradley clears his throat nervously, clearly uncomfortable with how this revelation shifts the entire power dynamic of the evening. What exactly does your company do? He asks, his voice strained. We prevent data breaches, Marcus explains patiently. When hackers try to steal customer information, employee records, financial data, trade secrets, we stop them. Our software creates multiple layers of security that adapt in real time to new threats. He shows us client testimonials from companies I recognize immediately, major banks, hospital systems, retail chains, technology firms. The scope of his business influence is staggering. The demand for cybersecurity has exploded over the past few years. Marcus continues, every business needs protection and the threats are constantly evolving. We've been growing by about 40% annually. I think about all the evenings Marcus spent on his laptop claiming he was just checking some work stuff. The phone calls head take in the other room saying it was just a quick business call. the occasional trips out of town that he described as boring tech conferences. Forbes featured us in their 30 under 30 list last year, he says, scrolling to show the magazine article. Incorporated magazine named us one of the fastest growing private companies in Texas. Sarah looks like she might actually be sick. Her perfect wedding, funded by my stolen money, suddenly seems incredibly modest compared to what Marcus could afford without even thinking about it. I was planning to surprise Shelby after our engagement with my wedding plans, Marcus says, his voice becoming more personal. I've been working with a wedding planner for 3 months to create something special. My heart pounds as I realize what he's saying. Has been planning our wedding in secret with resources that make my family's $10,000 fund look like pocket change. The thing is, Marcus says, his tone becoming more serious as he looks directly at Dad. Respect and love shouldn't depend on bank account balances or job titles. I've been sitting here listening to you dismiss your daughter's happiness based on assumptions you never bothered to verify. The silence that follows feels heavy with shame and regret. My family's behavior over the past hour has been exposed for what it really is. Shallow, materialistic, and cruel. Dad finally finds his voice. Marcus, we had no idea. We certainly didn't mean any disrespect. But you did show disrespect. Marcus replies calmly. You showed disrespect to Shelby, to our relationship, and to me. You made judgments without asking questions. You prioritized appearances over actual character. I watch my family's faces transform as the full scope of their mistake becomes clear. They haven't just hurt my feelings or damaged our relationship. They've potentially destroyed their connection to someone whose success and influence could have benefited the entire family. But more than that, they've revealed something about themselves that can't be taken back. Their love is conditional, based on achievement and status, rather than unconditional family bonds. Marcus reaches for my hand, his fingers warm and steady against mine. The question now is whether we can move forward from here, knowing what we all know about each other's true priorities. Dad immediately lurches forward in his chair, nearly knocking over his water glass in his haste to speak. The confidence and authority he possessed just minutes ago has evaporated completely, replaced by a desperate, scrambling energy that makes him look older and smaller. Wait, he says, his hands waving frantically as if he can somehow erase the past hour of conversation. There's been a terrible misunderstanding here. A complete miscommunication. Mom starts nodding vigorously, her perfectly styled silver hair bouncing with each movement. Absolutely, honey. We never meant to imply that your relationship wasn't valuable. We were just trying to be practical with our finances. I watched this sudden reversal with a mixture of disgust and fascination. 20 minutes ago, they were lecturing me about being irresponsible and Marcus about being unsuccessful. Now they're backtracking so fast they might give themselves whiplash. We could work something out, Dad continues, his voice taking on a pleading quality I've never heard before. Maybe we could split the money between both girls. That would be fair, right? $5,000 each. Sarah's reaction is immediate and explosive. Her face flushes bright red and she slams her palm down on the table hard enough to make the dishes jump. Absolutely not. That money was given to me. I'm not giving it back. Sarah, sweetheart, Mom says in that soothing tone she uses when she's trying to manage a crisis. Maybe we should discuss this as a family. There's nothing to discuss. Sarah snaps, her voice rising to a pitch that makes everyone wheeze. I've already put deposits down on everything. The venue, the caterer, the photographer. I've made commitments based on having that money available. Bradley shifts uncomfortably in his chair, clearly recognizing that his fiancé's behavior is making the situation worse. Sarah, maybe we should consider what's best for the whole family. Don't you dare take their side. Sarah whirls on him, her perfectly applied makeup starting to crack under the strain of her emotions. You were sitting right here nodding along when they explained why I deserved this money more than her. The accuracy of her statement hangs in the air like an accusation. Bradley did nod along, did agree with their reasoning, did seem perfectly comfortable with their decision to favor Sarah over me. Marcus remained standing, his posture relaxed but alert. Has watching this family meltdown with the detached interest of someone observing a fascinating but unfortunate social experiment. We could take out a loan, Mom suggests desperately, her voice cracking slightly. A home equity loan? We could fund both weddings that way. That's very generous, Marcus says politely but completely unnecessary. I can handle our wedding expenses. His calm response only seems to increase my family's panic. Dad starts calculating out loud, muttering about interest rates and monthly payments, trying to figure out how to undo the damage they've created. I finally speak up, my voice cutting through their frantic planning. Do you want to know what the worst part of this is? Everyone turns to look at me and I realize I have their complete attention for the first time in years. Not because of an achievement or an accomplishment, but because I finally have something they want. Access to Marcus and his success. The worst part is that this has nothing to do with money. I continue, my voice growing stronger with each word. This is about 23 years of being treated like the consolation prize daughter. The backup child, the one who's never quite good enough. I stand up, my legs surprisingly steady, despite the emotional earthquake happening inside me. Do you remember my college graduation from Riverside Community College? Sarah had a dinner party that same weekend for her promotion, and you missed my ceremony. Mom's face crumples. Shelby, we explained that Sarah's dinner was already planned, and we thought you'd understand. What about my 21st birthday? I ask, my voice gaining momentum. You took me to dinner at Applebee's. Sarah's 21st birthday got a surprise party at the country club with 50 guests. Dad starts to protest, but I hold up my hand to stop him. When I got my first freelance contract with Morrison Industries, you congratulated me for 30 seconds before launching into a 10-minute speech about Sarah's latest client acquisition. The room falls silent as my family realizes I've been keeping score all these years, cataloging every slight, every disappointment, every moment when they chose Sarah over me. Sarah's expression shifts from anger to something approaching guilt. Shelby, I never asked for special treatment. You didn't have to ask. I reply. It was freely given. Always without question, and when you needed wedding money, it never occurred to anyone to consider that maybe, just maybe, both daughters deserved equal support. Marcus places a gentle hand on my shoulder, a silent gesture of support that gives me strength to continue. You want to know why I never told you about my struggles? I ask, looking directly at Dad. Because every time I've ever needed help, it came with a lecture about Sarah's superior life choices. Every single time Mom starts crying, delicate tears that don't mess up her makeup. We were trying to encourage you to be more like Sarah. To make better decisions, better according to who? I ask. I love my job. I love my life. I love my apartment and my independence and my relationship with Marcus. But none of that mattered to you because it didn't look like Sarah's version of success. Bradley clears his throat nervously. Maybe we should all take a step back here. This is getting very emotional. Marcus turns to look at Bradley with an expression of mild curiosity. Actually, I'm finding this very educational. I'm learning a lot about family dynamics and value systems. The comment makes Bradley flush uncomfortably, as if he's just realized he's being evaluated and found wanting. Dad pulls Mom aside and they huddle together in the corner of the dining room, whispering frantically. I catch fragments of their conversation, phrases like damage control and fix this somehow. And what if he tells people? Sarah sits in her chair looking stunned, as if she's seeing our family clearly for the first time. The envelope with my wedding money sits in front of her like evidence of a crime, and she keeps glancing at it uncertainly. You know what's funny? I say, my voice carrying a bitter edge I've never allowed myself before. If you just asked Marcus about his work instead of assuming he was unsuccessful, you would have learned all of this months ago. But you never bothered to get to know him because he didn't fit your narrow definition of an appropriate partner. Marcus nods thoughtfully. I've been coming to family dinners for 8 months. 8 months of polite conversation where nobody ever asked me meaningful questions about my work, my goals, or my relationship with your daughter. The indictment is clear and devastating. My family has been so focused on surface-level judgments that they completely missed getting to know the man I'm planning to marry. We can fix this, Dad says, returning from his whispered conference with Mom. We can make this right, Marcus. I hope you'll give us that chance. Marcus considers this for a long moment, then turns to me. What do you want to do, Shelby? This is your family, your decision. For the first time in my life, the power dynamic in this room has shifted in my favor. My family needs something from me now, and I have the ability to grant it or withhold it. I want my wedding fund back, I say simply. Sarah's grip tightens on the envelope. I told you I'm not giving it back. I've already made commitments. Then I guess we know where everyone's priorities really lie. I reply, reaching for my purse. The statement lands like a final blow. And I can see the exact moment when my family realizes they might lose me entirely. Not just for this evening, but potentially forever. Marcus reaches into his jacket and pulls out a sleek tablet, the kind of device that screams premium technology and expensive taste. His movements are deliberate and calm, like a magician about to reveal the trick that will leave everyone speechless. Shelby, he says, his voice gentle but carrying an undercurrent of excitement. I'd like to show you what I've been working on for the past 3 months. My heart skips as he powers on the device, the screen illuminating with crisp, vibrant colors. Whatever he's about to show me, I can tell from his expression that it's something special, something he's been excited to share. He turns the tablet toward me first, and I see a stunning photograph of rolling hills covered in perfectly manicured grapevines. The image looks like something from a luxury travel magazine. Endless rows of green stretching toward mountains in the distance with a grand stone mansion nestled among ancient oak trees. Castello di Amorosa Vineyard in Napa Valley, Marcus says, his voice warm with pride. I've reserved the entire estate for a weekend in October just for us. My breath catches in my throat as he swipes to the next image. The mansion is even more beautiful up close. 13th century Italian architecture transplanted to California wine country, complete with hand-carved stone details and wrought iron balconies overlooking the valley. The ceremony would be in their main courtyard. He continues, showing me photos of an intimate stone courtyard surrounded by arched walkways and decorated with climbing roses. It seats exactly 50 people, which is perfect for our guest list. I'm dimly aware that my family has gone completely silent behind us, but I can't tear my eyes away from the images Marcus is showing me. Each photograph is more breathtaking than the last. I've been working with Isabella Rodriguez, one of Napa's most sought-after wedding planners, he explains, scrolling to show email exchanges and detailed planning documents. She's coordinated everything from accommodations to transportation to entertainment. Sarah makes a strangled sound that might be a gasp or a whimper. I glance over to see her staring at the tablet with an expression of pure horror, as if she's watching her own wedding dreams crumble in real time. The catering is being handled by Chef Antoine Dubois. Marcus continues, apparently oblivious to Sarah's distress. Has got 2 Michelin stars and normally only takes private bookings 6 months in advance, but Isabella has connections. He shows me sample menus featuring dishes I can't even pronounce. Things like duck confit with cherry gastri and bourbon braised short ribs with truffle risotto. The kind of food that makes Sarah's planned chicken or fish reception seem tragically ordinary. For the wine selection, Marcus says his enthusiasm building with each detail will be featuring bottles from the vineyard's private reserve collection. Some of these wines aren't available to the public. Dad's face has gone completely white. I realize he's doing mental math, trying to calculate what this level of luxury must cost, and coming up with numbers that probably exceed his annual salary. The photography package includes engagement sessions, full wedding day coverage, and a custom-designed album. Marcus continues, showing me sample work from what is clearly a world-class photographer, plus videography with drone footage of the valley. Bradley looks like he might be sick. His own wedding plans probably involve a local photographer and a DJ who also works school dances. For accommodations, I've reserved the entire guest house complex. Marcus says, scrolling to show charming stone cottages scattered throughout the vineyard property. Everyone will stay on site for the weekend, so it's more like an intimate retreat than a traditional wedding. Mom finally finds her voice. Marcus, this must be costing a fortune. You don't need to go to such extremes. The total budget is $78,000. Marcus says matter-of-factly, as if he's discussing the price of groceries, which is about average for a destination wedding of this caliber. Sarah makes another strangled noise. $78,000 is almost 8 times what my parents were planning to give me for my entire wedding. Transportation includes a luxury coach for guests traveling from Austin, Marcus continues, plus helicopter transfers for the bride and groom on the wedding day. Isabella thought it would make for dramatic photography. Helicopter transfers. I'm getting married at a castle and arriving by helicopter. The absurdity and romance of it makes me want to laugh and cry simultaneously. The entertainment features a live string quartet for the ceremony and cocktail hour, he says, showing me videos of the musicians performing at other high-end events. Then a jazz trio for dinner and a DJ for dancing afterward. He pauses, looking directly at me with an expression of vulnerability I've rarely seen from him. I wanted our wedding to be something magical. Something that reflects how special our relationship is to me. I realize I'm crying, but they're tears of overwhelming gratitude and love, rather than the hurt and betrayal I felt earlier. This man has been secretly planning the wedding of my dreams, while my family was questioning whether I deserved their modest support. The flower arrangements are being designed by the same florist who did the royal wedding in Monaco last year. Marcus continues, showing me elaborate bouquets and centerpieces that look like art installations. Sarah's perfectly composed facade finally cracks completely. "This isn't fair," she whispers, her voice breaking. "I was supposed to have the better wedding. I was supposed to be the daughter with the perfect life." The statement reveals so much about her mindset, about the competition that has defined our relationship for our entire lives. In Sarah's world, there can only be one winner. One daughter who gets the fairy tale ending. "Love isn't a competition, Sarah," Marcus says gently, his tone more compassionate than she deserves. "Success isn't about having a bigger wedding than someone else." Dad appears to be having some kind of breakdown, staring at the tablet screen with glazed eyes. $78,000, he keeps repeating under his breath, as if saying the number will help him process its magnitude. The wedding cake is being designed by the same pastry chef who creates desserts for the French Laundry, Marcus adds, showing me sketches of an elaborate 5-tier creation that looks more like sculpture than food. Bradley finally speaks up, his voice strained with barely concealed panic. "Sarah, honey, maybe we should reconsider our plans. Maybe we should postpone until we can afford something more comparable." "With what money?" Sarah snaps, her composure completely shattered. "You heard them. They're not giving us anything now. Your family already said they can't contribute more than $2,000. The revelation that Bradley's family contribution is so modest adds another layer of humiliation to Sarah's situation. Her perfect wedding is falling apart in real time. The honeymoon is 2 weeks in the Seychelles. Marcus continues, apparently determined to share every detail of his elaborate planning. Private villa, personal chef, helicopter tours of the islands. I look around the room at my family's faces and see a mixture of awe, regret, and panic. They're realizing that their $10,000 wedding fund wasn't just inadequate. It was insulting compared to what Marcus had planned to provide. But more than that, they're seeing the consequences of their assumptions and prejudices played out in real time. They judged Marcus based on his appearance and casual demeanor, and they were catastrophically wrong. The man they dismissed as unsuccessful and vague has been planning a wedding that will probably be featured in luxury lifestyle magazines. The daughter they considered a disappointment is about to become the bride in what sounds like a fairy tale. "Marcus," I whisper, my voice thick with emotion. "This is the most incredible thing anyone has ever done for me." He closes the tablet and takes my hands in his expression serious and loving. "You deserve to be celebrated, Shelby. You deserve to have people recognize how amazing you are. If your family can't see that, then we'll surround ourselves with people who can." The statement is both a declaration of love and a subtle threat. He is offering me a life beyond this room, beyond the dynamics that have held me back for years. My family is beginning to understand that they're not just losing a daughter. They're losing access to a world of influence and success that they can't even imagine. Marcus pauses thoughtfully, his head tilting slightly as if a memory has just surfaced. He looks directly at Sarah. and there's something in his expression that makes everyone lean forward slightly. "Sarah, you mentioned that you work at Henderson Global," he says, his voice carrying a new note of interest. "What department are you in again?" Sarah straightens proudly, apparently grateful for a chance to redirect attention to her professional achievements. "Marketing and corporate communications. I'm the senior account director for their technology sector clients." "Henderson Global," Marcus repeats slowly, pulling his phone back out. That name is very familiar. He scrolls through his contacts and recent emails, his expression growing more thoughtful by the second. The rest of us wait in silence, sensing that something significant is about to unfold. "Here it is," Marcus says, turning his phone screen toward the table. "Cloud Vault Solutions has a comprehensive cybersecurity contract with Henderson Global. We've been protecting their corporate data systems for the past 18 months. The color drains from Sarah's face so quickly, I worry she might actually faint. Her mouth opens and closes several times, but no sound comes out. "The contract is worth $2.3 million annually. Marcus continues, his tone remaining conversational despite the bombshell he's just dropped. "We provide security for their customer databases, employee records, financial systems, and proprietary research data." Bradley grabs Sarah's arm, his own face going pale as he realizes the implications. "Sarah, honey, maybe we should." "It's one of our larger accounts," Marcus says, scrolling through what appears to be a detailed contract summary. "I work directly with their Chief Technology Officer, Robert Henderson, and their Vice President of Operations, Linda Chan." Sarah finally manages to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. "You know my bosses. I had dinner with Robert and Linda just last week." Marcus replies casually, "We were discussing expanding our services to include their new overseas offices. Lovely people, very professional. The irony of the situation is staggering. Sarah has been sitting here bragging about her corporate success and superior career achievements, completely unaware that her sister's fiancé literally holds a contract that could make or break her company's digital security. In fact," Marcus continues, pulling up his calendar, "I'm attending Henderson Global's annual corporate gala next month. Cloud Vault is one of their premier vendor sponsors." Mom makes a small choking sound. The corporate gala is the event Sarah has been talking about for months. The opportunity to network with executives, the chance to showcase her department's achievements, the evening that could determine her next promotion. "I'll probably be seated at the executive table," Marcus adds thoughtfully, "as one of their key technology partners." Dad appears to be doing rapid calculations in his head, trying to understand the full scope of Marcus' business influence. If Cloud Vault provides cybersecurity for a Fortune 500 company, then Marcus isn't just successful. He's operating at the highest levels of corporate America. Sarah, Bradley whispers urgently, "Maybe you should apologize. This could affect your career." "I keep personal and business relationships completely separate," Marcus says quickly, apparently reading the panic in Sarah's expression. "My professional dealings with Henderson Global have nothing to do with family matters." The reassurance should make Sarah feel better, but instead she looks even more distressed. She's realizing that she's spent the evening insulting and dismissing someone who could potentially influence her professional future, even if he promises not to. That said, Marcus continues, his tone becoming more serious. "The damage to our family relationships is another matter entirely. I watch my family absorb this information, seeing their expressions shift from panic to calculation to regret. Dad particularly looks like he's trying to figure out how to salvage a situation that has spiraled completely beyond his control. The technology sector is smaller than people think," Marcus explains, his voice taking on an educational tone. "Executives move between companies regularly. Industry conferences bring everyone together. Word travels fast about both professional competence and personal character. The implied threat is subtle but unmistakable. In a world where reputation and relationships matter, burning bridges with the wrong person can have lasting consequences." "Marcus," Dad says carefully, "I hope you know that our family issues tonight don't reflect any disrespect for your professional achievements." "Actually, they do," Marcus replies calmly. You made assumptions about my character and capabilities based on limited information. In business, that kind of prejudgment can be catastrophic. Sarah looks like she might actually be sick. Her perfect career, the cornerstone of her identity, and the family's pride, is suddenly vulnerable in ways she never anticipated. I work with dozens of companies across multiple industries, Marcus continues, his tone remaining educational rather than threatening. Healthcare systems, financial institutions, retail chains, manufacturing companies. The corporate world is interconnected in ways most people don't realize. Mom reaches across the table to take Sarah's hand, both of them looking stricken as they contemplate the potential fallout from this evening's events. For example, Marcus says, scrolling through his phone again. CloudVault also provides services for Morrison Financial Services. Bradley's face goes white. That's my uncle's firm. Small world, Marcus says with a slight smile. We implemented their new security protocols last quarter. Your Uncle Richard speaks very highly of our work. The web of connections is becoming clear, and my family is trapped at the center of it. They've insulted and dismissed someone who has professional relationships throughout their social and business circles. I'm curious, Marcus says, looking directly at Bradley. Does your uncle know about tonight's dinner conversation? About how your family views financial responsibility and professional success? Of course not, Bradley stammers. This is a private family matter. Private family matters have a way of becoming public knowledge, Marcus observes. Especially in small communities where everyone knows everyone else. I realize that Marcus isn't threatening my family, so much as educating them about the potential consequences of their behavior. In their small social world, reputation matters enormously, and they've just revealed some very unflattering aspects of their character to someone with significant influence. Sarah finally finds her voice, though it's shaky and uncertain. Marcus, I hope you understand that I was just supporting my parents' decision. I didn't mean any personal disrespect. The road to professional destruction is paved with good intentions. Marcus replies gently. Character matters, Sarah. Integrity matters. How you treat people when you think they can't help you reveals who you really are. The lesson is clear and devastating. My family treated Marcus poorly because they thought he was unsuccessful and insignificant. Now they're discovering that their judgment was not only wrong, but potentially damaging to their own interests. Dad clears his throat nervously. Marcus, I hope we can put this evening behind us and move forward as a family. That depends entirely on what happens next, Marcus says, his attention turning back to me. This is Shelby's decision to make. Once again, the power in the room has shifted in my direction. My family's future relationship with Marcus, and potentially their standing in their small social world, depends on how I choose to respond to their treatment of me. But more than that, they're learning that actions have consequences and assumptions can be dangerous. The casual cruelty they showed me tonight might have lasting repercussions they never anticipated. The evening has become a masterclass in the importance of treating everyone with respect, regardless of their apparent status or success. My family is getting an education they'll never forget. 2 weeks later, my phone rings at 7:30 in the morning. I'm barely awake when I hear Sarah's voice on the other end, and she's crying so hard I can barely understand what she's saying. Shelby, please, I need help. She sobs into the phone. Everything is falling apart. I sit up in bed, instantly alert. Despite everything that happened at family dinner, hearing my sister in genuine distress triggers my protective instincts. What's wrong? What happened? The venue. She gasps between tears. Riverside Country Club called yesterday. They're doubling their prices. They said there were unforeseen maintenance costs that require additional fees. I glance at Marcus, who's stirring beside me. We're in his downtown loft, which I've learned is actually a penthouse apartment worth more than most people's houses. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Austin's skyline stretches out in the early morning light. Doubling? I ask, trying to process what Sarah is telling me. That's illegal. You have a contract. The contract has a clause about facility improvements, Sarah explains, her voice cracking. They're renovating the ballroom and upgrading the kitchen, and they're passing the costs along to existing bookings. I feel a stab of sympathy despite everything. The Riverside Country Club has been Sarah's dream venue since high school. She used to talk about having her wedding reception in their elegant ballroom overlooking the golf course. How much are they asking for now? I inquired gently. $18,000, Sarah whispers. The original quote was $8,000. Even with mom and dad's money, I can't cover the difference. Marcus sits up beside me, his hair tousled from sleep. He mouths everything okay, and I nod, though I'm not sure that's true. What about Bradley's family? I ask. Didn't they promise to help? Sarah's crying intensifies. They backed out. His mother said she couldn't support a wedding funded by stolen money. She heard about what happened at dinner somehow. The judgment stings even though it's not directed at me. Bradley's mother has apparently decided that taking my wedding fund was morally questionable, and she's withdrawn her support as a result. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I say, and I mean it. Whatever my sister's flaws, watching her dreams crumble is painful. Gets worse. Sarah continues, her voice hollow with despair. My maid of honor quit. Jessica said she couldn't stand up for someone who would steal her sister's wedding money. 3 of my bridesmaids have dropped out, too. I close my eyes, imagining the social fallout Sarah must be experiencing. News travels fast in our hometown, and apparently the story of our family dinner has spread beyond our immediate circle. The dress shop is demanding full payment up front now. Sarah goes on. They said my credit was flagged for some reason, and they don't trust me to make payments. Marcus gets up and quietly starts making coffee, giving me privacy for the conversation while staying close enough to offer support if I need it. What about Bradley? I ask. Isn't he helping with any of this? Sarah's laugh is bitter and completely without humor. Bradley is having second thoughts about everything. He said maybe we should postpone the wedding until our finances are more stable. The irony is devastating. Sarah's fiancé, who was so smugly confident about their superior relationship just 2 weeks ago, is now questioning their entire future based on financial stress. The photographer Ken led yesterday, Sarah continues. She said she couldn't fit us in anymore, but I think she just doesn't want to be associated with the drama. I lean back against the headboard, trying to process the complete collapse of Sarah's wedding plans. Everything that seemed so secure and well-planned has unraveled in a matter of days. My boss called me in for a meeting. Sarah adds quietly. Someone in HR heard rumors about family issues affecting my professional judgment. They wanted to make sure there weren't any ethical concerns. My stomach drops. Marcus' prediction about reputation and professional consequences is coming true faster than any of us anticipated. What did you tell them? I ask. I said it was a private family matter, Sarah replies. But they seemed concerned about my stress levels affecting my work performance. I think they're watching me now. The cascade of consequences continues. Sarah's personal drama is affecting her professional life, which adds financial stress to an already overwhelming situation. The caterer wants to meet this week to discuss payment concerns. Sarah goes on. I think they're going to cancel too. I look across the room at Marcus, who's preparing breakfast with the casual efficiency of someone whose life is organized and under control. The contrast between his stability and my family's chaos is stark. Mom and Dad tried to help. Sarah says they looked into taking out a home equity loan, but the bank said their debt-to-income ratio is too high. They can't qualify for additional financing. The revelation that my parents are struggling financially adds another layer to this disaster. Their decision to give away my wedding fund wasn't just favoritism. It might have been their last available resource. Sarah, I say gently, maybe you should consider scaling back the wedding, having something smaller and more intimate. I can't, she sobs. I've already sent invitations. I've told everyone at work about the venue and the details. If I change everything now, it will look like I can't afford what I promised. Pride. Even in crisis, Sarah's primary concern is how her situation appears to others, rather than finding practical solutions. Bradley's family is talking about eloping. Sarah continues. His mother suggested we just go to Las Vegas and have a simple ceremony, but that's not what I wanted. That's not what I planned. I think about the irony of Sarah potentially ending up with the kind of simple wedding she criticized me for planning while I'm preparing for an elaborate destination celebration in Napa Valley. The worst part, Sarah whispers, is that everyone keeps asking me about Marcus' company. People found out he owns CloudVault, and now they're all asking why we're not having a fancy wedding too. The comparison must be torture for Sarah, who spent our entire lives being the successful sister, the one with the better everything. Now she's facing the possibility of a modest wedding, while I'm planning something from a fairy tale. I don't know what to do, Shelby. Sarah admits. I've made such a mess of everything. For the first time in our adult lives, my sister is asking me for help rather than offering unwanted advice. The reversal of our usual dynamic is profound and heartbreaking. Marcus approaches the bed with a cup of coffee for me, his expression concerned. He's clearly picking up on the emotional weight of the conversation. Sarah, I say carefully, what exactly are you asking me to do? The silence that follows is loaded with unspoken possibilities. I know what she wants. She wants access to Marcus' resources, his connections, his ability to solve problems with money and influence. I was hoping, Sarah says quietly, that maybe Marcus might consider helping. As a family member, the request hangs in the air like a challenge. After everything that happened, after all the insults and assumptions, my sister is asking the man she dismissed to rescue her wedding. He'll talk to him, I say. Finally. But Sarah, I need you to understand something. This isn't about money. This is about respect and relationships and how we treat each other. I know, she whispers. I know I messed up. I just don't know how to fix it. The conversation ends with promises to call back later. But I can hear the desperation in Sarah's voice. Her perfect life is crumbling, and she's running out of options. Marcus sits beside me on the bed, his expression thoughtful. Family crisis, he asks gently. I nod, summarizing the conversation for him. He listens without judgment, his business mind probably analyzing the situation from multiple angles. What do you want to do? He asks when I finish. The question puts the power in my hands once again. I have the ability to help or not help, to extend grace or enforce consequences. The decision will define not just my relationship with Sarah, but the kind of person I choose to be in response to crisis. Marcus and I have our wedding on a perfect October afternoon in Napa Valley, surrounded by rolling vineyards and unseasonably warm sunshine. The ceremony takes place in the stone courtyard of the Castello di Amorosa, exactly as Marcus planned, with 50 of our closest friends and family members witnessing our vows. I wear a dress that costs more than Sarah's entire original wedding budget, custom designed by a seamstress who usually works for Hollywood celebrities. Marcus looks devastatingly handsome in a charcoal gray suit that was tailored specifically for him in Italy. When the minister pronounces us husband and wife, the string quartet plays Pachelbel's canon while white doves are released into the afternoon sky. The reception is everything Marcus promised and more. Chef Dubois creates culinary magic that has our guests talking for months afterward. The wine flows freely from the vineyard's private collection, and the jazz trio provides the perfect soundtrack for dancing under strings of lights as the sun sets behind the mountains. Our wedding photos are stunning enough to grace the pages of a luxury lifestyle magazine, which they eventually do when Town and Country features our celebration as one of the most beautiful destination weddings of the year. The article mentions Marcus' business success and describes our love story as a modern fairy tale of genuine connection triumphing over superficial judgments. Sarah's wedding takes place 2 months later in the community center attached to their church. The venue is clean and functional but lacks the elegance she originally dreamed of. Her dress comes from a department store rather than a boutique, and the flowers are simple arrangements of seasonal blooms, rather than elaborate artistic creations. Only 37 people attend, including immediate family and a handful of friends who remained loyal despite the social drama. The reception features a buffet dinner of standard catering fare, and a DJ who also works school dances and corporate events. It's a perfectly respectable celebration, but far from the grand affair Sarah had envisioned. Dad officiates the ceremony, having gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. His speech about love and commitment carries genuine emotion, But there's an underlying sadness in his voice as he realizes how much damage the family's favoritism has caused over the years. 3 months after Sarah's wedding, Dad calls and asks if he can take me to lunch. We meet at a small cafe downtown, just the two of us, and for the first time in my adult life, he listens more than he talks. "I've been seeing a therapist," he tells me, stirring his coffee absently. "Your mother suggested it after everything that happened. She said we needed help understanding why we treated you so differently than Sarah." The admission surprises me. Dad has never been one for emotional introspection or professional counseling. The fact that he's seeking help suggests a genuine desire to change rather than simply managing a crisis. The therapist helped me realize that I was trying to live vicariously through Sarah's achievements. Dad continues, his voice heavy with regret. "I pushed my own unfulfilled ambitions onto her success, and I dismissed your accomplishments because they didn't match my narrow definition of achievement." We talk for 2 hours and Dad apologizes not just for the wedding fund incident, but for years of subtle and not so subtle favoritism. He acknowledges specific instances I've carried in my heart for decades, validating feelings I'd started to think were overreactions or misunderstandings. "I'm proud of you, Shelby," he says as our lunch winds down. "I'm proud of your creativity, your independence, your ability to build a life that makes you happy. I should have told you that years ago." The words I've been waiting my entire life to hear finally come, and they mean more to me than any wedding fund ever could. Mom starts making deliberate efforts to treat Sarah and me equally, sending birthday cards with equal enthusiasm, and asking about our lives with equal interest. She begins including Marcus in family conversations as a valued member rather than an outsider to be politely tolerated. The changes aren't perfect or immediate, but they're genuine and consistent. My parents are working to rebuild our relationship on a foundation of mutual respect, rather than conditional approval based on achievements. Sarah and I have lunch 6 months after her wedding, and she looks different somehow. Less polished, less concerned with appearances, more genuinely relaxed than I've seen her in years. "Marriage is harder than I expected," she admits, picking at her salad. "Bradley and I are learning to live within our means instead of trying to impress everyone with what we can afford." She tells me about their modest apartment, their careful budgeting, their decision to focus on building a solid foundation, rather than maintaining an image of success. The financial stress from the wedding disaster forced them to reassess their priorities and values. "I owe you an apology," Sarah says quietly. "Not just for the wedding money, but for years of competing with you instead of supporting you. I was so focused on being the successful sister that I forgot how to be a good sister." We cry together in the restaurant, releasing decades of rivalry and resentment. For the first time in our adult lives, we talk about building a relationship based on love and mutual support, rather than comparison and competition. "Your wedding was absolutely beautiful," Sarah adds. "I saw the magazine article. You looked radiant. And Marcus looked at you like you were the most precious thing in the world." The compliment comes without bitterness or envy, just genuine happiness for my joy. It's a gift I never expected to receive from my sister. Bradley and Sarah's marriage survives the early financial struggles, and actually becomes stronger as they learn to work together toward shared goals, rather than individual achievements. They discover that their relationship works better when it's built on partnership, rather than status. Marcus' business continues to grow and thrive, but he remains the same humble, kind man I fell in love with. Success hasn't changed his character, and he continues to measure wealth in terms of relationships and experiences rather than material possessions. 2 years later, our family gathers for Sarah's birthday dinner, and the atmosphere is completely different from that disastrous Sunday when everything changed. Conversation flows naturally between all of us with genuine interest in each other's lives and mutual respect for our different choices and paths. Dad asks Marcus about his business expansion into international markets, and Marcus explains the challenges and opportunities with patient enthusiasm. Mom shares updates about her volunteer work with the local literacy program, and everyone listens with equal attention. Sarah talks about her recent promotion at Henderson Global, where she's excelling now that family drama isn't affecting her professional focus. Bradley describes their house hunting process, their excitement about finding a home they can actually afford rather than one designed to impress. When Dad raises his glass to toast Sarah's birthday, he includes genuine praise for all of us, celebrating Sarah's professional growth, acknowledging Bradley's steady character, expressing gratitude for Marcus' generosity and wisdom, and telling me how proud he is of my creative success and personal happiness. To family, Dad says, his voice carrying emotion and authenticity, to learning from our mistakes and building something better together. We all raise our glasses, and I realize that the wedding fund crisis, as painful as it was, ultimately forced our family to confront toxic dynamics that had been poisoning our relationships for decades. The money was never really about money. It was about respect, love, and the courage to demand better treatment. Marcus reaches for my hand under the table, his fingers intertwining with mine in the gesture of support and love that has sustained me through every challenge. We've built a marriage based on mutual respect, honest communication, and the understanding that true partnership means supporting each other's growth and happiness. The life lesson that emerges from our story is profound and lasting. Genuine wealth lies not in bank accounts or status symbols, but in authentic relationships built on respect, understanding, and unconditional love. True success means having the courage to stand up for yourself when you're being treated poorly, and the wisdom to recognize when people are genuinely trying to change and grow. Money can't buy respect, and achievements mean nothing if they come at the cost of family bonds. But when crisis forces everyone to examine their values and priorities, it's possible to rebuild relationships on stronger, healthier foundations. My family learned that assumptions and prejudices can be dangerous and costly. They discovered that treating people with dignity and respect isn't optional behavior reserved for those who appear successful or influential. Character matters more than credentials, and kindness should never depend on perceived status. I learned that my worth isn't determined by other people's opinions or approval, even when those people are family members I love deeply. Sometimes standing up for yourself requires accepting that relationships might be damaged in the process, but authentic connections are worth the risk of temporary conflict. Most importantly, we all learned that love shouldn't be conditional on meeting arbitrary standards of success or achievement. Family members deserve support and celebration, not because they've earned it through accomplishments, but simply because they're loved and valued for who they are. The wedding fund that seemed so important during that Sunday dinner ultimately became irrelevant compared to the deeper issues it revealed. The real treasure wasn't the $10,000 my parents offered Sarah. It was the opportunity to rebuild our family on principles of equality, respect, and genuine love. As I look around our dinner table 2 years later, watching my family interact with authentic warmth and mutual appreciation, I'm grateful for the crisis that forced us all to grow. Sometimes the most painful experiences lead to the most beautiful transformations, and our family is living proof that it's never too late to change destructive patterns and build something better together. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this family transformation story. Have you ever experienced favoritism in your family, or had to stand up for yourself when people underestimated your worth? How did you handle the situation, and what did you learn about relationships and self-respect in the process? Please share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help others who are dealing with similar family dynamics. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video to help others find it, subscribing to our channel for more real-life stories about overcoming family challenges, and finding your inner strength, and sharing this with anyone who might benefit from hearing about the power of standing up for yourself with dignity and grace. Thank you so much for listening to Shelby's journey from overlooked daughter to confident woman who demanded the respect she deserved. Remember that your worth isn't determined by other people's opinions, and sometimes the most difficult conversations lead to the most meaningful transformations. Until next time, keep believing in your own value and never settle for treatment that doesn't reflect your true